Welcome to the Independent Artist Podcast, sponsored by the National Association of Independent Artists.
Also sponsored by Zapplication. I'm Will Armstrong, and I'm a mixed media artist.
I'm Douglas Sigworth, glassblower. Join our conversations with professional working artists.
Douglas, lovely to see your smiling face here on the podcast Zoom. Once again, it's been a while, huh?
It's been a minute. It has been a minute.
Yeah. We've been quite busy. Had a few shows under our belt since the last time we talked.
Yeah.
And I kind of bailed on you, and I think it is maybe one of the cooler things that's happened serendipitously with the podcast. I was unable to record the preamble. I just got way too busy and bogged down, and you put together that Pearls episode, which I think was, a pearl of its own. I mean, I really enjoyed that episode.
I did too, but I just want to say, don't ever do that to me again, okay? No, I'm just kidding.
I promise you that I likely will. It's
I have to say that I would speak into my microphone and I would feel as if the two of us are talking. I'm putting out all this great energy, and then I listen to it back and I'm like super dead. So I'm like, I need you to feed off of.
I hear you. Try doing actual radio where you've got nobody and you're just talking into a can and you have no idea who is listening or whatever. That's a different beast as well, but it's fun.
I thought of you in that. I thought, geez, how the hell did you sit on the microphone and just talk to the world and have no one talk back to you?
Yeah, talk to the wind. I would get on there and just say outlandish shit and see if anybody was listening, and then all of a sudden the switchboard would light up. Be like, what do you mean the Beatles ruined rock and roll?
Okay. I had a feeling you thought that.
I don't know that I believe it, but it's one of those things I say.
Okay. Well, what do you want to talk about this week, huh? You got anything on your mind?
I don't know. It seems like the art show world is just sleepy and content as can be, doesn't it, Doug?
Oh, my God. Someone let off a frickin' bomb, and it's like social media has gone crazy.
Yeah, I've read maybe 4 or 5% of it. It's nuts out there.
Well, I know I don't want to talk about the big elephant in the room because we weren't there. And so there really is no way for us to have anything intelligent to say about it. So
that's because you're racist.
Stop it. The Beatles did ruin rock and roll. That's what you're doing right now. That's exactly what you're doing.
The switchboard is lighting up. We were not there. You and I were not there. And I don't necessarily want to open up that can of worms, but we can talk about the fact that everybody really seems to be on edge, whether it's our customers I found or other artists. And typically I'm finding artists to be as on edge as they typically are during the doldrums of winter.
Yeah.
When we're all kicking around waiting for the shows to start in the spring.
I did think to myself yesterday online, it's like, we're all supposed to be hard at work in our studio. I was supposed to be hard at work in my studio, and my nose was stuck in my phone. It's like I couldn't stop. It was like social media is driving me crazy. It's getting me all on edge.
I definitely stopped. I looked at it and was like, oh no, I can't do that. That's a rabbit hole. I talked to you and Ben Fry a little bit yesterday through text, but I was I find myself being pretty affected by that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I had so many commissions to do that I just was like, I can't be bogged down in this right now or I'll waste my entire week.
Right. Well, all the shows I've done recently, the past few since we've talked, it's been fraught with a lot of tensions. I go to talk to friends and they'll be like, I got to tell you about what just happened in my booth. And it's just, well, first of all, I wanted to say that a lot of the shows over the years that we do, doesn't it seem like an event will happen in the country and it gets married to that weekend show? Like, for example, the year that Amy Winehouse died, I'll always remember being at Ann Arbor. Or when marriage equality was passed, I'm in downtown Des Moines. Well, this last time when I was down in Des Moines, Roe v. Wade was overturned, and that was like a big bomb that was just dropped over everyone, the opening of the show like that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, being down at Jazz Fest one year when Prince died. And it cast a pall over the entire ceremony. And there were a lot of celebrations of his music, and you could hear different little tributes popping up. And my wife at the time was living in Minneapolis, so she had Minneapolis on her sign. So everybody wanted to talk to us about Prince. And I mean, we kind of welcomed it. It was a good way to kind of mourn together, and it seemed like a celebration of life thing. This is just a depression of rights being taken away.
Oh.
I wear my politics and my heart on my sleeve, and I know we have a lot of listeners who believe other things than what we may produce,
Right.
but I don't care. It's something I'm passionate about. So, if they don't believe what I believe, fuck them.
Well, I have a daughter. You have daughters.
Right.
Women make up half of the population. And for anyone to not feel affected by that decision, I know some people are so passionately against someone having an abortion, then don't have an abortion. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't have to impose that on somebody else.
Right. We had to explain to my daughters, what everybody was so up in arms about.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, "What? Really?" So we're not supposed to talk about abortion. That's one of the dinner topic that people just aren't supposed to talk about. But again, I don't care. Loud and proud about it. Women's rights forever. And it's time for the old white men like you and me to shut the hell up.
Well, I walked up to a friend's booth. I don't have permission to talk about the specifics. So I'm just going to keep it general. But their imagery is relating to women's issues about that. And it sparked a harsh issue in that person's booth over the weekend of one of our shows where they had to get somebody involved to have them stop harassing them about what they believed about abortion. And we've got this hypercharged situation on the road. We've got shootings going on. It's a different time than what we've ever experienced, I'd say, before now.
Yep. It is, and I understand why tensions are on edge, and clearly you can hear the tensions are on edge in my own voice. Yeah. It's issues that I'm passionate about, and how do we get involved and fight for the things that we believe in, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't have any advice for anybody at the shows. I just know that we're just talking about what is out there. I mean, we put ourselves out into the public, and it is a real thing we're all dealing with from day to day. And there's no
In my old studio, I had written on the wall, "Don't make small talk with a volatile stranger." And I'm like, that is some good advice for the art buying public out there, or patron people walking around. I'm like, you don't know me.
Yeah. People
don't necessarily come in and want to push my buttons. Mm-hmm. I am the volatile stranger in that scenario. But I sometimes people come in and they push my buttons, and I'm like, hey, this conversation is over. I'm not talking to you about that, and just move along. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I do think we need to put in some foresight into that, some thinking ahead of time, how to react to things. And one thing I've come up with is if things get too heated, just do whatever I need to do to move them along, to say, whatever, let's not engage in this rhetoric. We don't have to agree on stuff. We're just an artist here to have fun, sell our work.
Yeah, we're there to make money is what we're there for. And shake me off my game. That's the problem. Yeah. You shake me off the game of making money, then it makes me angry. You're taking food out of my mouth. You're taking money out of my pocket. I don't want to talk to anybody about politics at an art show. And, well, I don't really have anything political in my booth anyway. So,
right.
Well, that's not true. I guess I do. We have a whole thing about Native Americans getting their land taken away, but besides that...
Aside for that one.
Potato. That's not political.
No.
Unless you're an asshole.
Boom! The Beatles ruined rock and roll.
It all comes back to there.
So
Paul is dead, I wish.
Hey, so you're back from the Mile High City. How was Denver?
It was a nightmare, to be honest. I had a really, really hard weekend.
Okay.
I did fine financially. It just was a really hard weekend.
Well, what happened?
AC went out in my truck on the way down. So driving through the Badlands from South Dakota, and it's 103, no AC. The alternator blew out on the way back while my wife contracted COVID. Woke up on Monday morning with a scratchy throat and took a test. So unlike the artists that showed up to Cherry Creek with COVID and knew about it,
are you
hear
kidding?
About that?
No, what happened there? Name names right now. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't name names.
Text me. I'll give their names. I'll tell you exactly. So there were some artists that showed up, and they were neighbors with a guy that I know fairly well, and they were hanging around with him and talking the entire weekend, and then they drop at the very end of the show, "Oh yeah, my wife and I are both positive for COVID."
Oh, for crying out loud.
It makes me especially hot having tested positive for COVID right before Artisphere and then doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing. You took a financial hit. You stayed in a hotel.
Huge financial hit.
You put out money to stay in a hotel, and then you didn't get any money back from the show. From selling at the show.
Right. And I'm not trying to be holier than thou, but actually I'm definitely holier.
You're holier than
Yeah, definitely holier than that hassle.
Than that.
Seriously. They weren't wearing masks. They were just like, we got COVID. I'm like, well, you could have, like, what if somebody walked into your booth with a baby?
Yes.
You know, what if somebody they're compromised, immunocompromised, do they get out in the public? I mean, it's unconscionable.
My 70-something-year-old high school drama teacher, who I love dearly, showed up to Madison out of the blue, and we walk up to each other and we're about to give each other this hug, and I stop and I think, wait a minute, I'm around the public. I don't know that. I'm like, I don't think I should hug you. I mean, I'm around all these people. And she's like, it's okay. But I mean, that's the thing. We need to be thinking about other people.
Right. And I don't know. My wife contracted it at some point. It was probably, if you look at the timing of it, it was probably more on the way down to the show.
Okay.
Let's blame North Platte, Nebraska, and the weird lady who was coughing in the corner at a crummy Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. We don't need to get into all of that, but she did wake up Monday morning after a really long weekend. It was run phenomenally well. They did an excellent job.
Okay, but I know this isn't a competition, Will, because, I did Des Moines the weekend before Cherry Creek. I just want to know what was on Cherry Creek's snack carts, because Stephen King took care of us.
Did he really?
He did.
Okay.
He sent full sleeves of Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies down every half hour on their wagons. We had Girl Scout cookies the entire weekend, so take that, Lord. Cherry Creek.
You know what? I don't want to drop a hammer on you, Doug.
Go ahead.
Jalapeno Cheetos.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding.
That is...
Oh.
Yeah, but then it's hot and your mouth is all... I don't know. I think the Girl Scout cookies were better, but...
All right. No, it was... they take great care of you, and they make sure you're hydrated. And you're out
both
there.
shows. They send people around and really, really, really do a good job of making us feel appreciated.
Yeah, I think both of those shows are some of the best in the business. You got Cherry Creek and Des Moines and Stephen King and Tara and Amy Curley there. They handle things well. They're everything from people with COVID to older folks passing out in the street. They had to handle it all. So, hats off to them for another great weekend.
Hey, so you said you had a big commission earlier or commissions you've been working on. What you doing there? What's going on with that?
Do you do much commission work?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So here's how I do commission work.
Okay.
Somebody places an order with me, and I get really excited about the order. And then I give them an impossibly long lead time on when it's due. Like, I'm not going to be able to do it. And then I quote like my last show of the year or something like that, or Christmas. And then that date comes rolling around, and then right around the time that's due, maybe the day of or the day after it's due, maybe a couple days before, I haven't started it. And then I will email my client and say, it's looking awesome. And they get really excited. And then I'm like, okay, now I have to start the piece. And then it takes me longer than I think. And then I just give them a bunch of lies until I finally have a panic attack and stay up all night and finish the painting.
Okay.
That's how I work.
This sounds like really a college thesis being written. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I've never written a college thesis, but I've done plenty of graphic design back like prior to like even Quark Express graphic design things, and like with razor blades. And I've got enough scar tissue in my fingertips to prove it. I am a procrastinator. Yeah. And like Clifton had posted something that really rang. Clifton Henry, one of our former guests, posted something on Instagram, and it really rang home to me. It was like, when you procrastinate, your only option is the consequence. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, thanks, Cliff. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, right.
But you need that back against the wall. You need feet to the fire to get those commissions done, or what?
Maybe I just hate commissions.
Yeah.
I mean, I just hate them. I mean, I appreciate them. We're like, ooh, it made the show better. And it's like, I don't know. They're a pain in the ass. I just hate them.
The closest I can relate it to for me is when we did wholesale orders. When you take orders for glass and then you have to fill the orders, it's like every piece I analyze and go, it's not exactly what they wanted. It's not this size. It's not the right color. And then I just hate it. I hate it, the whole process. So we just got out of the whole wholesale game.
Good for you. I was talking to a good friend of mine who actually is thinking about just halting commissions. I'm not taking commissions on and sending an email out to like her 10 super good collectors and being like, look, I'm sending an email out this week saying commissions are closed until 2024. I'm just not doing them because they have been such a hassle. Also, people have been so on edge.
Yeah.
It's been really challenging. For
another story that, I mean, to kind of take us back to the challenges is I talked to an artist friend on the road at one of the shows, and this artist literally had a bully in their booth saying, I want you to make this for me. The artist says, I don't do that. That's not it's like not in my repertoire. And the person really felt like they could bully their way into getting what they wanted in front of a booth full of people, kept saying over and over, no, but you do this so you can do that, right? Why wouldn't you do it? And wouldn't take no for an answer. And it's like, come on, people.
Yeah, I know how to make them take no for an answer. At that point, you just put up, okay, yeah, absolutely. It's $75,000.
Right. Like, okay, well, that's good. But that means
how about that?
They threw this artist off of their game. And maybe this is good advice for some people who don't even know how to avoid that. I'd say, here's my card. I talk about all commissions or anything special that I don't have in the booth right now on the phone at a later date, and then get them the heck out so you can focus on what you have right there and now.
Or, hey, I've got some great ideas. Here's my card. Contact me after the show. Then that way, after the show, they can find out that your big idea is for them to go fuck themselves.
That's right.
Right. Ta-da! Waka waka do. Show them what they've won. All right. Yeah. Don't make small talk with volatile stranger. So I had a couple of interesting interactions over the weekend in Cherry Creek that I thought I'd mention. One was with my next door neighbor. He had a big double booth, glossy work. He was doing very well with it. He had a new technique. It was kind of the anti-Dolan, but it was also, I think Dolan would definitely, Allie Marie would definitely appreciate it.
Okay.
He would sell a bunch of paintings, like 3 or 4 paintings. They were fairly reasonably priced. And then he'd go to wrap them up and need a minute to wrap them up. He had a ribbon, like a separation ribbon that he'd pull out from one wall to the next and close his booth.
Okay.
And he was right there on display. And somebody come in, hey, can I come in? Not right now. I'm closed for about 5 or 10 minutes while I wrap up these paintings. I'll be right with you. It's
like at Home Depot when they shut down the aisle so that they can move the pallet around.
No, I get what you're saying, but it created this kind of excitement for his work. They're like, oh,
no, I get that too. Like a red carpet kind of deal. Like this is now something very exciting is happening, and it gets people interested.
And then he'd also treat that with like high end customers that are looking at big paintings, where he didn't want, like, he had his little dog in his booth and he couldn't talk to people about the dog if he's wanting to talk to somebody about a huge commission or a huge painting or something. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. It's not something I'm going to do, but it worked for him.
I can see how it would when the crowd has something to like be like voyeurs about, like, ooh, what's happening in there? Suddenly the demand gets triggered and it's like, oh, he sold that piece. Okay, now this piece over here looks even more attractive to me because he's selling stuff. Like the red dot used to do that. If you had a booth full of red dots, suddenly the non-dotted pieces became like, I've got to get this before it's gone.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't think that it would work for me, and I didn't want to do it. And I'm not tempted to do it, but I did think it was kind of cool, and it definitely worked for him. So
that's cool. That's interesting.
The other one that I wanted to mention is when an artist buys your work, like that just... I mean, I'm just not sure doing what we do that anything feels as good as that. So, I don't know. I really appreciate that when another artist appreciates your work and comes in and buys a piece.
I totally get that too. Cause I feel sometimes, like, I think it is common for a lot of us out there to feel, I don't know, a little bit insecure. Like, what do people think about your work or whatever?
Yeah. Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome. Absolutely. Like, even if somebody says something which is flattering and nice, the fact that they're ponying up the money and want to live with it is always the highest form of flattery, for sure.
And they don't think you're a jerk. You know,
yeah. like we all think we are.
Right? I don't know. Maybe I am. Who knows?
Maybe.
It's okay.
You're not
I'm okay
a
with
jerk.
That.
You were stepping into that role. that
like
role
that
that's been scripted.
It's all right. I'm just reading the script, Doug.
Yeah. Hey, you were talking about Dolan a minute ago, and the last episode that we aired with Dolan and Allie Marie, I kind of did a clumsy introduction to Michel Delgado, who we're airing our interview today with him. And I tried to say that there was kind of like the flip side of Dolan. And I did a clumsy way of explaining what I meant by that. And I guess, after thinking a little bit more about it, there's something about Michel that he works in such a visceral way, such a meditative, spiritual kind of way that is not, and even as I explain it right now, I'm stumbling.
Well, I'm with you on that. And I don't think what you did was particularly clumsy, but I feel like with Dolan and Allie Marie, you have what you like is what you get. What you've shown us is what you like is what you get. What you like of me is what you're going to get more of. Whereas Michel, I've always found his work is like what you see is what you get. It's me. And it's fine. It's like, this is him. This is who he is. And I mean, and that is very much who Dolan and Allie Marie are as well, but it's just a different business model. It's just like, he's more fluid and less considered.
Fluid is a good way to say it because it's so process-oriented. He says that visions and work come out of him that he doesn't have any kind of a preconceived notion to. It's kind of like it's a process for him. And I feel like the difference between what I experienced from hearing the story with Dolan and Allie Marie is they're very meticulous about planning what they're going to make next and what their next kind of design or their series might be. Where Michel he goes to an internal place and says, okay, and he gets real quiet and says, what next? And just lets it kind of like come out. And so I kind of like that we have the ability on this podcast to talk to so many different people who work in so many different ways.
Yeah, I love that too. And I think that brings us right to our talk, Douglas. I think we should get down into it. One of the things that I like about our show so much is that you tell me who you're going to talk to. And I'm like, oh, and I get really jealous. And I'm like, oh, man. But then, I hear the talk and I hear things that I might not necessarily have asked. And I get to just sit back and be a fan. So sit back and be a fan with me. And let's hear Michel Delgado.
I feel the same way. I felt the same way about all of your talks. So yes, here he is, Michel Delgado from Chicago, Illinois.
This episode of the Independent Artist Podcast is brought to you by Zap, the digital application service where artists and art festivals connect.
Hey, Will, do you remember the old way of doing these applications with red dots on the slides and self-addressed stamped envelopes?
Do you still have a rotary phone, Douglas? No, I don't remember that.
Well, I just like that they were with us back then when we made the switch from analog to digital.
It's a huge switch, and now Zap is the industry standard.
And they're always creating features that make our lives easier too. So I do like what Zap does, and I do like that most of the shows I apply to are on Zapplication.
Exactly. So I personally appreciate what Zap is doing, and thanks for not making us reinvent the wheel every single week like we used to have to do.
Michel, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Douglas, for having me.
I have to say, I'm a little starstruck. I've been an admirer of your work for quite a long time, and I've seen you out there on the road. And you've kind of been on my radar since we started this project. I wanted to have a chance to talk to you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, a few friends of mine had told me a lot about what you guys do, and it's meaningful. So I'm always open, for things that are meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, you kind of came full circle for me recently when I was looking into Art in the Pearl, and I noticed that you were a juror for that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, how did that experience go for you? What was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy it because it helped me to broaden my view and variety of different work, because I don't zoom in into a lot of work in general. So this was a very good experiment for me. I enjoy it, and the people who was putting these things together was very helpful. And then I was able to look at a lot of work. It was a great experience for sure.
Is it kind of overwhelming when it gets down to like measuring people or categorizing them side by side and rating them and building a show that way? Or what was that like?
Yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, it's so much moving part, and you also don't have a lot of time to digest what you're looking at. And then you have to really go back and then rely on what resonates to you. For me, work has to be able to touch me. If you find a way to touch me, then I'm become more attentive. And so from there, I try to trust my judgment. It's on point.
That sparks a question in my mind, because what I was reading about you was you describe yourself as a visionary artist. So if you say that the work has to touch you in a certain way, does that kind of resonate with how you work? I mean, having that emotional connection to the work?
Yeah, that's been like that. That's how I read best what I do. That's how I've been approaching my work for years, and I rely totally on that. If the work doesn't touch me, there is no way I can put it out into the world, because it's an experience. And from this experience, a lot of variety of different things inside of me really start barking. And then therefore, I kind of know I'm up to something really good.
What does that mean to you to be visionary when you're working?
That's a good question. When I came to this country, I didn't quite know where I fit. So that was very interesting, because then you have all this genre of work, abstract, being a self-taught, so it's outsider, it's naive, and none of those things I can really relate to where I belong. So as a visionary artist, for me, it's just being a more internal, the dialogue you have with your reality and the reality that you're facing every day. So now, how can you go inside of that and start conveying image based on some experience? So that's the visionary. It's something that you envision intuitively or emotionally, and then you arrive to something it's tangible. So when you put my work next to all this genre I talked about, visionary, outsider, there is an intuitive alertness to it. It was interesting, like, some of the biggest institutions had approached me. I mean, I tried to introduce them to my work. And then when they come up with, they were saying to me, I'm not an outsider because I'm a little bit too sophisticated. It was a compliment and a curse, right?
So are you saying that, if I understand you correctly, that the way you work, it comes from an internal place where you kind of start without preconceived notions, but you settle in, and visions for your artwork come to you and come out of you that you hadn't planned ahead of time.
That's exactly that, because it's all triggered by the reality that you and I experience every day, and then I just experience it in a different level. For me, that's where I know how to read what's coming next. So most of everything I do that you see in two-dimensional, those images, they're not in my head. The experience is inside of me now. The challenge is, how can I use that experience to arrive to an image I never see before? And that's been like that for over 30-something years. But for me, these signal, they are here to teach me, to tell me, to show me something. And then when I can connect with that, with my hand and my material, Then I arrive to something, now I'm seeing it.
Oh, I see. Like the third eye.
Yeah, there you go. It's something, it's not just sitting there or you're putting there. You have to cultivate that to order to be able to relate to it.
Yes.
And then to use it in a meaningful way. Now from there, I can kind of, work into the composition, what direction I want to go with it, and then so on and so forth. The majority of the work that I resonate really well had brought those catalysts for me of understanding who am I in this reality? Where am I fitting? What am I learning? How am I growing spiritually? And if those work are done and I put them into the world and another human connect with that, that's success to me.
What does that mean to you when you talk about that spiritual side of it?
Yeah, that's actually for me, I always been interested in all variety of different spiritual practice. I don't have one religion or things that I follow, but the world of spirituality interests me. Now, I add another layer to it. I always been interested of things they are not obvious. And if they're not obvious, it open a huge amount of creative opportunity for me. So all of those things, they spirit, they are things that they hit you from different angle. And then you build a relationship with that. He helps you to ground you. He helps you to understand better the self that you're developing as a person, as an artist, as a creator, and then so on and so forth. And now you have to also go back a little bit to the culture I grew up with.
And where was that? Where do you come from? What was home originally?
Yeah, I'm originally from Senegal in West Africa. I was born there and I grew up in that environment. And that environment, it's intense, Douglas. Very intense.
Oh, it is.
And in a lot of ways.
Describe it or tell me about it.
Yeah, creatively, emotionally, mentally, the terrain is intense. But there is something very rich who hits you constantly all the time for you to stay on your toe creatively. To order to exist in that environment, you have to be creative in every level. How you make your food, how you sleep, how you live in that terrain, how you function in that reality, because you don't have a lot of resource, number one. Number two, everything you need, it's already there. So you have to kind of constantly adjust to these things. And if you were born there, that's become your reality. So for me, being around all variety of different color, different philosophy, different intensity of just getting your means, that stuff you have to adapt quick.
How so?
It's just, the resource that we have in other environment different than what you have over there. That's the huge gap right there, and then from there, you don't have other places to pick and choose. That's what you work, It's like, if you want to make your bed, you don't just go and then get all 7 different grade of different choices, mattress wise.
Oh,
you have
it's a whole different way of life. We're here. We've got. It's so product driven and capitalism driven, where it's all about what you can buy and what you own. It's a simple but rich, interesting, and intense if you choose to adapt to it. It's how we navigate those nuances as each individual, And then for me, those things had implement a huge amount of creativity internally for me, because I constantly have to figure things out, question things, and then so on and so forth. So over the year, it just kind of leaked more inside of my being, how the person that I become. Okay. It really shaped you as an artist and kind of forming this visionary way of working and thinking and being.
Yeah, that was huge. That was
so the visionary aspect of what you're describing. Does it extend beyond just being an artist and your work? Is it kind of how you approach life in general overall?
Yeah, because I mean, this word has become a little bit too overrated or overused. Because I mean, it's just like how you can find the dialogue between your emotion, your intellect, and your being as a person to have an arrival into this reality that you try to negotiate with every day. You learn how to work with other elements than just like this intellectual part of academic, how to make art or how to draw a donkey or whatever fuck that is,
Right. Whatever the design principles
exactly,
or the design laws that are dictated to, we will just follow a formula.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think we're coming to a same endpoint, whatever.
Yeah. So when you came to the U.S. and you mentioned earlier there was a feeling of where do I fit? So do you feel like how you were kind of conditioned from childhood to kind of react to things in a visionary sort of way, that we're such a different culture? So maybe culturally you felt like you didn't fit, but then also how people think here and how people like measure things, like measure success or measure materials or all that. It's like a whole different way of life.
Yeah, I mean, I think this outsider, it dawned on me here. It happens way back growing up. I'm from a mixed parents.
Okay.
I live in an environment. My parents, they were always between, like the 7 kids. We're 7. I'm the 5th one. So I always had to reconfine where I fit or where I belong. And that's like this chain who constantly follow me. So it was not foreign to me. And then when it comes to art here, it's like people, so what do you do? First things people generally know, it's abstract or realistic but all of those things I was not able to relate because I don't know how to do them. Now, how can I tell you about what I do? So let me show you what I do. So it was always this excess of like reconfining where I belong, where I'm going to fit. And then eventually you just let the work and then your presence and your trusting who you are to emanate that. Then it brings a sense of attraction. And then it's approachable. For me, the structure of academic art was really confusing because growing up in Senegal, the French had brought these very strong ideas of like, if you don't know how to draw, you're never going to be an artist. And that was one of the biggest bullshit a lot of these people had get stuck over there. Inside of their culture, they have one of the most creative and intense and interesting stuff. They just let it down. And then they start following that. And we were constantly fighting with that. Aesthetic has to be beautiful versus something is visceral, right? Yeah.
Okay. So when you left Senegal, was it to pursue a career as an artist?
No, I was just trying. I had to get out of the continent, because, but it was beautiful. I grew up in an incredible environment. I really love that, but you always long for something better, higher. Maybe it's out there. Maybe it's a delusion. Maybe it's not. But I needed to get out. I needed to get out.
Okay, so what about, pardon my ignorance, but what were you experiencing there that you needed to leave?
Yeah, so number one is the limitation. I think what I accomplished here, I would have never been able to do that in Africa or in Europe. I was in Paris for quite some time as an independent artist. Those things, like over there, you would create all of this work or this experience visually or in artistic form. People would just come and enjoy them and then move on, which was very good because I was very clear the people I grew up with make sure art, it's never about economic. They look at art, there is no money attached to it. But I would tell you, there is a strong value attached to it. So if you find your way, you will get paid for what you do. So maybe not there.
I see. So this was what you wanted to do with your life. You wanted to devote your life to this, but you knew that you needed to be somewhere else in the world that you could, you could fund your life by getting paid.
Yeah, because I never had any desire about anything in my life than just being an artist.
Really?
I was very clear by the time I was 14, this is what I wanted to do. And that's how that came about. I can tell you about it if you're interested of it.
Absolutely. But, how did you come to that?
It was very clear. For me, I grew up, my mom, she was an artist. Mm-hmm. She works with a lot of fabric and textile and sewing. And then I grew up in an environment was very creative around me, but it was a lot of craftsmen. So one day I stumbled into this yard, and by my curiosity, I connect with 3 people. Mm-hmm. I have never seen a masterpiece like that. Really? These people, they were healer, they were puppet maker, they were stage artists, they were highly intelligent, and they would create art, can be in movement or 2-dimensional with nothing.
Really?
And they were living inside of this place. And that was where I really connected. When I met 2 of them, I become really close to them. I was pretty clear. This is what I want to have. This is how I'm going to get this.
Okay. So their example really was what you kind of got. It became really clear and in focus that that's what you wanted with your life.
Yes. Yeah. And because my surrounding was not art. No, you can do that.
Yeah.
It's not, that's the dead exit. Don't go there. But with these people, they were not only making art, they were living something was beyond anything I ever faced. And then I followed them like dogs. I was young. I was just I would go there every Wednesday after I stumbled into it. They were projecting a lot of film. And then as the things start developing, then I start wondering inside of these things what these guys were creating. They were nothing like what I saw in school, what the French colony was trying to embed inside my brain. These was things, how they take their life, and everything was innate spirituality, creativity, depth, intelligence, and then create something was like, whoa, it just hits you.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. This is how these people are living. This is the object of every day, how they put them together. It becomes their shrine. And all of those Africans, they were kind of trying to follow nice tapestry, trying to draw with so much pain, perfection. And the art was already in there. For me, this is what interested me. So that's what I told you, the magnitude of what I encountered in that little village was incredible.
It sounds like a depth of something that you just had never imagined. And I've talked to a lot of different artists, and we aren't necessarily this homogenous group where we all have the exact same kind of approach. And, you have some artists who it's like their job, and you have some artists where it's like a way of life. And it really sounds to me that this integration of kind of this spirituality and creativity, it's more of artist. It doesn't describe job. It describes who you are at your core. That's what it feels like from this interaction with these people. It was like, I don't know where it's going, but I just have to follow this path.
Sure. Yeah. I think so that's what creates this different realness. I think so there's some great artists. I would always admire someone's craftsmanship, your intuitive creativity. That's what hits me. It's not coming from your intellect. It comes from another place. You're trying every day to figure it out. And if you find some people to support you with that, that's even much more beautiful.
Yeah. So your first step out of Senegal was to Paris. You said you went to Paris first thing.
Yeah. I went to Paris. It was a very strong desire to go there because you always think, the grass is green on the other side, right? Until you arrive there. And by the time I get there. Oh, it was dark.
Okay.
Everything just kind of blow up. And for me, everything just completely blow up. But blow up today, I can look at it in a better way. I went in a deep end, in a very dark addiction. I was an heroin addict. I shot heroin for about at least 11 years.
Okay.
And then, and that was, I encountered a lot of crazy stuff.
Okay.
Doing that, losing work, selling work, figuring things out.
Mm-hmm.
But then you grow out of that. I was very lucky. I find some great people from time to time who had helped me and see some good in me, and then they send me to the right direction. So that's from there. I end up working in one of the biggest agencies in Paris and commercial art. And that was a nice learning curve for me.
So that period of time, that period of that dark period of addiction, was that all in Paris?
Yeah, it started intensifying over there, and then I kind of lose control over that. But I was making work. I was making some really dark work, interesting. And then I remember, going and working in this agency where everybody was like tucked up, was very professional.
Yeah.
I was learning and developing another skill to merge those two worlds together, and in me. So that was a really good. He was a good savior for me.
I appreciate you sharing that. Really, that's a really revealing personal thing to share. Addiction is something a lot of people battle, and it's something a lot of artists in our industry, deal with. It kind of goes hand in hand with being this ultra creative soul and whatever it serves to do to open our eyes, to protect us from pain, whatever its function.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it kind of seems to settle in on us creative types pretty readily. So how did that work for you? How did that addiction with being an artist, how did that go together?
I think, I'm very grateful for what those substances had done for me, because they probably opened something I was not able to access.
Access, okay.
But then it was dangerous because I could have lost my life there too. But I walked away with something very tangible, my life, and these other things who happened. Then a lot of artists have this huge delusion pretty much today. I can say that because I've been one of them. Then if you take more dope, or if you drink more, your creativity gets, the word, I believe, creativity comes from the creator. And for me, those substances was cutting me off from the creator, from something higher than me. And I was too scared, or I was too insecure to allow that to grow. So then I speed it up, and then I speed it up. A lot of my friends didn't make it. They were great artists, or they were whatever, great actor, but they never made it. But so now when you come back to these things, that you realize the work that you do, it's not embedded with that. People feel that sincerity into your work.
I hear you there.
Yeah.
Is there that fear? Obviously, there had to be the realization at many points along the way until you were able to get clean of, if I keep down this path, I will lose my life.
There you go.
And then, so you make the decision to save your life, but then so much of your life is being an artist. And there's, a lot of folks, as you say, have married this idea that to be a good artist, you need the substance to help you open up. So that period then of finding yourself as an artist without substances, what was that like for you?
It was challenging because I had to find first the balance and then this being than I am. Learning to grow, learning to own your feelings, learning to own your challenge, learning to your insecurity, and learning to own all of those things. And then you can today sit down and laugh about it, paint about it, diagnose about it, trying to figure it out. it's a huge reward, but it was not easy to just be comfortable in the middle of the night, just working, trying to figure things out. And there was nothing there, than yourself and you trying to access something greater, bigger than you that I just talked about earlier.
Right.
And then you arrive to this work, it's like, wow, this filled me with great joy.
To get to that place and being present with whatever discoveries come to you had to be like that first kind of a reward that kind of kept you propelling forward away from that, to have, you know what I mean, to stay clean and to feel good about it.
Yeah, and that's what, it was not only my making, other people had helped me, or people had encountered my journey, and then they always saw there was something good inside of you. I'm gonna help you to find it. I'm gonna help you to show that. And then they were not trying to clone me. They were just trying to. There is another way, because if you have this type of talent, we want you to stay here longer, and I think it's for you as well. So those things was very energizing, and then it becomes possible to. I don't use any substance for many, many years, or almost 29 years. I have a daughter. So I become like a full-grown person, let's put it that way.
Well, tell me about that daughter of yours. I know that for, her younger years, she was your focus. She was your everything.
Yeah, she was, and she still is, because it's interesting. I was about 13 or 14. I had this incredible vision, and then I'm gonna have a daughter just like Malika. She be a mixed race. I'll be living in an island, and I'll be a painter. And when Malika arrived, all of these things was in my reality.
Really?
Yeah.
So that vision was an actual, like, looking forward in the future, and it all came to fruition.
Yeah, it was surreal when that happened. There it is, this little curly mixed girl was like just totally alive, and then changed the trajectory of my life to develop a relationship I treasure. She becomes my temple. She becomes my driving force. And I tell you, that's the great feeling to be a dad. I love this woman, and she grew up to become an incredible person. Wow. And it's so inspiring, And then we did art. We traveled together. And
she's an artist? Is she an artist?
No, she's a nurse. But when she was young, when she was little, we did a lot of art together. I exposed her to a lot of variety of different work, and then how to view work, I think, so will touch you. And it was a very nice to bring someone inside of that world, and then be with her inside of that. It was all part of the journey.
Yeah. I mean, to have that, this happens for a lot of us when we become parents and we realize the world isn't all about us, and we can flip the role a bit, and we can dote on them and get them to where they need to be self-actualized and whatever. I mean, it really changes the whole trajectory of a lot of our lives.
Yes, for sure. No, it is something very depthful. I think artists need those type of wake-up call, because I tell you, we very infantilize, artists. We sometimes we so childish inside. We throw tantrum. We fall in this black and white thinking. We're very self-centered.
Very.
That's just a reality. It is, Yeah. The soon that we have a bad show, our whole world crumbling.
It's like
walk into your booth and tell you something. You're all like on fire. It's like that's very infantilized. But when you have kids, there is the mirror. And you just realize, man, how can I grow out of this? Because being an artist, it's a great gift for humanity, but serve that with purpose, with strength. Get your shit together,
Yeah, for sure. All right. So now tell me about that opportunity that you had in Paris, that job that allowed you to kind of merge the two realities that you said was like a savior for you.
Yeah, it's still, I believe today, they're still there. It's one of the biggest commercial agency in Paris. So the academic part was that for me to be introduced to a world where there's a creative people.
Yeah.
They will show up. They have a task. They have a deadline. They keep a budget. They keep a staff. It's an order that's structured that way. These people, they went to school to learn this. That was like all new to me because what I learned was totally out there, so this was more like tangible, some of them went to graphic art school, some of them went to commercial art, or whatever that is. So that academic part start waking up inside of me. So which for me to be exposed to that was really good because I was able to merge where I came from and who am I made. I didn't have this opportunity for me to romanticize about going to art school. It was no possible. I didn't have the means and I was exposed to it. And then I think, the universe, I never went that route. I never went to any art school whatsoever. And if I would did that, it will mess up everything I know.
You had that knowing in you that you felt like if you went that route, that it would maybe try and dampen that creative spirit that you harnessed over the years?
Yeah, for sure. Now I'm much confident about it. Before I was having some doubt about it because, like I told you, I come from a very strong influence of a French culture. This aesthetic of beauty, how it is. Draw, paint perfectly, and then do all of these things. But I was never able to resonate with it. So for me to keep the work that I like it and I love to experiment, today I'm kind of full grown about it. I feel very confident about it. It's not about aesthetic. It's about something else. And that stuff, you can make this shit up. Either it's there or it's not there. And the people who support you, they feel the same way.
So tell me about coming to the U.S. and then working as an independent artist in that period of time, and how did that look?
Yeah. Oh boy, I tell you, I get inside of this game the wrong way.
Really? How do you mean?
Oh my God. I was not very easily teachable. I just thought looking back, it was a lot to learn. But the thing is, around this little, this group, it was so much different things than I was not relating to. People say, oh, try this, you should do it this way, you should go that way, you should do it this way. But one thing who kind of really helped me, I paid attention.
Yeah.
I appear to not, but I can see a lot of things.
Okay.
So that's how I learn. I'm very shy about asking questions.
Okay.
But I am very attentive. So I had to make all of those mistakes to really learn what work belong where, how you present the work, what show to go to. And then your connection, there's the people, great friend I met. I was able to get a lot of good insight from them. And some I didn't listen, some didn't work for me. But I figured a rope relatively quickly. And then now it was to get into the show. I didn't know how to apply. I was overdoing it.
When you say show, are we talking like the outdoor festivals? Kind of like what a lot of us know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't know how to, I would get rejected left and right. And some other peers would see my work, man, your work is really good. But so what the hell? I'm not getting inside of the show. And then progressively, by being more attentive, I start putting more attention how to apply, where to apply, how to adjust the work. It was just too intense. It was too all over the place.
Okay.
And so that little normality, I fight it for a long time. Well, I stay behind for a long time. But then it came to me, then I felt like I can learn this curve, and I was open to it. But the interesting things going back, remember, I grew up in an environment, the part of economic was never part of the game.
Yeah.
Never part
right.
of our, you know, so that part I didn't quite understand that pretty well, but then I didn't have any plan B. This is it for me. So I had to find a way to make it happen.
So do you feel like that initial how to make your work something that you can get paid for and support yourself on, that learning curve was quite foreign to what you were used to? Because for you weren't creating the work to have a desired end. Your work was about from this internal connection to the work. It wasn't product driven. Did you feel like getting into this kind of a setting where you represent yourself on the street, under a tent, talking to customers, that was a bit of a shift that was pretty foreign to what you're used to?
Yeah, for sure, though, because there is a tameability, you know, I had to learn. There is some work, they don't belong there. I mean, I had a good audience. People loved the work. And there was something very good for entertain, but I would just walked away with nothing. So over the year, I had to adjust the light. I had to adjust the volume. My work was too loud, was too intense, so that belonged to another place. So that's how I was able to sort it out, and then to allow the right audience to come and support me. And then some people, you know, some Patreons that they wanted the realer, the better it was, you know, and those are the people who are carrying me and support the work for me to get this far. Because this was an experiment, and I'm still experimenting it. But I'm trying to go to a different direction with what I'm trying to do. The things that I like about these venues, they are these masses of soul who were totally threatening by institution, gallery, museum, all kinds of stuff. They don't know how to be in front of art and in artists. So it's to us to trying to warm that connection with them. But I'm not an educator. I'm not here to waste my time either, you know, but there is a warmth to that. The people, wow, what is this? What can I? So it's overwhelmed them. You just like to chip these things away, to just think, you know, come in, you know, just stay. Look at the work.
Be with it.
You know, what does that say to you?
Just
right.
be with it and let it. Because I was
Mm-hmm.
experiencing that as I was getting ready for our talk, and I was looking over the images from your site and from Instagram, and
Mm-hmm.
I first was looking at it from kind of a heady place. Oh, what's he trying to say here? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I would look and I would be like, my head wasn't deciphering it, but then something started to hit me in regions like my heart or in my chest or my stomach. And I'm like, I'm feeling his work. And then as I read more about you and was reading on your process, then I thought, I understand the work here as opposed to here. And it just, it like hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
So I love that if you encourage your, you know, the people walking through to just be with the work and let it speak to them.
Yeah, and then just that gesture, he brings what? He brings the best of me. He brings the best of them. There is no insecurity. They don't have to feel dumb because they don't understand. I tell you, Douglas, I do a lot of work. I don't understand it, and I don't give a shit. But I know there is something there I have to go back to. And more I go back to, then more I understand it. So how can this stranger just pass by and supposed to get everything? And then if they can get everything, they start glue you with someone else, another master or another artist, or, you know, this and that, you remember of that. All of that dialogue needs to get out for them to really be with something totally new and different. And in the end, if they can just say thank you, shake my hand, or just say, you know, thanks for this experience. Because the way that we had approached art has been really fucked up. being young, I don't know if you remember that, but I used to hate that. You will go to some field, how do you call that? A day field. Oh, no. You know, like your school will take you to a day trip.
Oh,
or day
field trip, right.
Oh, field trip,
Yeah.
field trip. Yeah, so you will go to they will take you to the museum. I mean, these people would dictate the fuck out of your mind to sit down here and to look at this fucking painting who doesn't have nothing for 2 hours. Where this shit comes from, to look at this stuff. So you walked away from that with those ideas. You gotta create now this intellect because it's a time, it's like all of this stuff. But I don't feel this Van Gogh three little flower. I just don't. I want to get out of here.
Well, I mean, there is the element of it being a possession, a valuable possession that hung on a church wall or a king's castle or something that was to dictate wealth and status. It really wasn't about a way of life. It wasn't about an emotional connection. It wasn't about a true spirituality. It was about control and power. Those sorts of things you're talking about, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, because the things is like you create some kind of underlayer of like, if you don't get this, you're not smart, you're not worth it. So yeah, you're dumb, you know. Yeah. But you know, in this little being, you try to figure all of these things. Well, you know, when you're gonna go inside to things to bombard you, all of this art, one thing you're gonna do is pretend. The other things you don't know how to be inside in front of those work. Well, let someone just show you there is another way to have a reciprocity of connection with these things. Often when people walked into the booth, you know, what I have tendency to tell them, you know, when they look at the work, they try, you see their mind start wondering, you know, what does these things mean? What is that? Just chill. Just chill. Now, listen to this painting. Listen to this painting. What this painting is triggering inside of you. Well, then you arrive to a lot of variety of enhancement. Because for me, I'm interested, Douglas, to make the art will really enhance the quality of my intelligence. Meaning spiritual intelligence, emotional intelligence, you know, curiosity intelligence, all kinds of really strong seed that we have inside of us. We're just sleepy.
Yeah.
If art can trigger that to create spark, then he wakes up another one. Then that person walked away with something they gonna think about. They walking with something. Wow. I like when people walked in and just look at, oh, I like the color. I mean, for me, it's like almost an insult. But I'm gonna try to be nice and humble because that's where the intelligence is taking them. That's where they are.
Well, I'll push back on that a little because I do, for example, I think a lot of people speak from color. Like color hits them as an emotion, as like a center. I know what you're saying about looking at a color that is going to match something. Yep, that's where we bullshit. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about how somebody walks in and that color just speaks to their soul. And it's like that blue. It's just, and maybe it's me with glass and the color that we work with in glass. I mean, I can get lost in our work as we're making a particular, you know, piece, and that color just has a depth to it.
Yeah, but you know, I totally give you that. That's totally, I agree with that. But you know, I have this underlayer expectation in humanity. We often stay just right here in the surface.
Yeah.
And the response of those color variation, that's what it is. You're responding, like you said, to something. I mean, it's legit. It is totally valuable, period. It's very valuable. Now, if you want to understand what this person is doing, either you're going to ask him a question or you got to give it some time. Then it creates a dialogue. We're not on the surface. You understand what
I am following you, for sure.
I'm not a dictator about it, but I like to look at the world. That's just me. with a little bit more depth. All of those things, they play out to our growth, or the complexity of who we are as a human. I don't know if I'm just going too far, but that's just me.
No. But, I do wonder, as you're talking about this, does finding the collector at these outdoor art fairs, does that create a challenge for you? I know you have had a lot of success doing your own solo shows and working with galleries. You have a lot of different ways of presenting your work to the public. And the types of conversations, it sounds like, that can maybe get a little exhausting from the customer looking for that color to match their couch or something. Is that format of show not as successful for you?
No, it's been a great catalyst for me.
Okay.
Where I can find a place on this planet. I buy this 10 by 10.
Yeah.
And I'll have this opportunity to show the work. That's it. And if the world can see the work, then a lot of other opportunity come. A lot of the collector or people then I met directly who collect my work, who supported me, I met them in this venue.
Okay.
And I take them to another world with me. So I can work with them remotely. I can do all kinds of different, now they can see the elevation of where I'm going with my career.
I see.
And some of them, then I met there who greatly supported me, and then they just disappear. But it's all part of it. And like the people, who I tell someone about this work, or this little kid, that I met. And he came with this show with his parents, and now he's all grown up. Now he can buy my work. His parents can barely come inside my booth, but the kid come.
Okay.
I connect with him, and he walked away with something. So all of that, they've very been valuable to me, because I didn't have the means to pay some big catalog and to put my work in there. So this is the path.
It does make the connection. What we do, it is a way that we can connect with an audience without a huge investment. You know what I'm saying? We can show up and see a lot of people who are coming for a common goal to see art, and then you can nurture those people along and have them throughout your career.
Yeah, and that's a very valuable, in my opinion. I would get up and do, and then I become a little bit more selective. I'm going to go over here versus there. I'm going to say less of this versus this. But it's all helping me to develop something maturely inside of myself, how to connect with people. And it doesn't have to always be capital, you want to walk away with great show for sure. But you want people also to remember you.
Right.
And if they remember you, most of the time they will come back. But I'm still making, Douglas, a lot of mistake. I go to some show and I say, what am I doing here? But I go to other ones, I've been keep going. What I find, I build a relationship with those people. They didn't buy the first year. The second time they come back, and then they brought their friend. Like I met one in Chicago. The show was crappy, but that person came to my gallery, my studio in Chicago, bought a very solid piece, completely left. 4 years later, I bump into him in Florida with the group of friends. He brought their friend, their friend bought the work. So, all of those things, they just like a little seed that we're putting in different places. How they come together, that's the mystery. But I still have the energy, and then I still care. So that's what I show up. So
you have a gallery in Chicago that is a showroom for, like, off of your studio? Is that how it is?
Yeah. I'm actually, as we speak right now, I just moved into this new place. That's my workspace and my gallery that I'm developing. So better, bigger space, better exposure, and all of that is in a new phase. So I'm really looking forward to, because these things has to have some way of visualizing. So all of those travel that I did, all the soul, those people that I met, now I want to try to find a way to bring them to me. So if I can create something like that, eventually in their path, they will know where to find me.
Yeah.
So that's that. And then I can really do different work. I can experiment different things. And I would really love to be able to show other my friends or other people that I met who have a great work. And
out of your gallery?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would like that.
Well, one of the things when I was looking over your website that I found really interesting was a project, a Kickstarter that you did several years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And it had a really cool theme. Can you tell me about that story? I thought that was really cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was the gum spotting experience. That's one of the most challenging work I did.
Okay.
I think in my career. I worked on this project for 4 years. It was chewed up, spit out, and left out, something like that.
Okay.
I had committed to do 56 painting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's just my curiosity again had led me to a lot of gum spot. Then people chew gum, they spit it, and then you walk to different place and city, you find this black spot everywhere. Mm. So that triggers something, and I start photographing them. I had collected over thousands and thousands of them from different places I travel. And one time I was between show and Chicago. I was so down, man. I was like, I was so down.
Did you feel like that gum splat on the ground?
Yeah. I was totally chewed up and spit out, And then this idea came. I was actually on my way to work to a studio. Then I was working from when I was here, and this idea came. I had started collecting all of these gum spots and photographing them and then making them big on black and white. And then I will take this black and white on film, and then I would shoot it on the screen and silk screen the black and white on a white color paper, on a watercolor paper. And so from there, I had to figure where the painting is inside of it. So I start with one singular one. Then I start thinking more. I had to learn about how gum is made, or what is all of these things is about. So now I start only not putting one. I will create a dialogue amongst them, because obviously these are all people who would chew this gum from insecurity, from nervousness. And then I start combining them together and creating a different platform to work with. And so that stuff take off. This guy, someone was really close. He was selling my work in that time. He said, Michel, you should have one Kickstarter. And then I did that. I was able to raise the money to go back to this process, buying the right material and expanding it bigger. And this work was, and I still have a lot left in there, but I had to take some time off. But it leads to an incredible exhibit at the Philadelphia International Airport. It was there for 6 months. They create this huge installation with that. A lot of people had get to know about it. And so it was a very good experiment. And I still have a lot that I want to do with it. And then last year, I won a big grant in South Florida, the Museum of Fort Lauderdale Art Museum. That's the work they wanted to show at the museum. So I was able to exhibit that on a very big scale. And that was really cool.
That first interaction with that, and you made a piece from it, it sounds like there was such a deep connection to the symbolism between that, that being spit out and disregarded, and that just fueled a whole series, and then it fueled a whole, even bigger than a series. It turned into a whole show, and it just was really a really deep, meaningful idea for you. I mean, what did that mean to you personally?
For me, it's like there is something very resilient inside of this being, this artist, and sometimes we lose grab of it. Life sends us a lot of variety of different channels and then challenges and then experience. And all of those things, it's almost sometimes humanly impossible to weather them. It's very difficult. But you have to embrace your vulnerability. Man, this hurt. This doesn't feel right. And then you start diagnosing that so you can get out of the mud, because we all experience that from time to time. And that's how I felt from time I had a great success. That was sweet. People was chewing down all of these things really nice. That's what the gum does.
Oh,
you
gotcha,
pop
right.
one, you get all this gum. It's sweet. You kind of push all of your feelings away. You much confidence,
Yeah, right. You're on top. You're the flavor of the week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
then now it tastes like shit. What you do, you throw that out. And another guy come and step on it, struggle to move his feet out of that because the heat, the environment. Did you ever see people really step onto a gum? They get very frustrated. They don't know if they need to wipe it, to clean it. But, so all of that metaphor kind of work in then this reality, then this person, then I am. I just find a different way to convey that in this offer.
Yeah. And was that specifically related to you as artist, or were there other issues involved in feeling, disregarded or set aside?
Yeah, no, I think it was all merged. For me, it's all one unit. I'm not only an artist. I'm many things, man. And you as well, and then all of those other people.
Yeah, the uniqueness about making our work and making our work to sell to support ourselves, there can be that feeling of not being appreciated or loved for what we create. And so there's that sense of vulnerability and that sense of feeling disregarded. But then there's the second element of not only do they not want to buy my work because they don't like it, they're not buying it, and then I have nothing to support myself with. So then there's that more primal fear of how do I pay my bills and how do I support myself in life if I'm not being rewarded financially for what I do.
Yeah. No, this stuff is real, Douglas. It's real as it can. As an artist, for me, that's it. I don't have another, like I say, a plan B. So if this thing doesn't work here, I gotta find another way to make it work this way. But all inside of this same field. This is what I really want to do till the sun runs out for me. And then also, for me as an artist, keep going and creating more variety of different work, go in different places, go in different depth, exploring new things. And that's not always an easy route because we like to repeat success, right? And that's what killed the artist, because we just happen to be in this 10 by 10 for a minute. Yeah. But if you want to have a longevity, then you have to let go some things, but that's just me. And I love to open some new things, create some new stuff, and then just to see where that will lead. I can always cut it off or amplify it.
Yeah. Yeah. So another question I wanted to ask you is, so you had that really monumental kind of like what you wanted to do with your life came into focus when you met those people back in Senegal. And so you had looked to them as kind of a mentorship, as a kind of setting you down a path. Have you had any kind of experiences where you've been able to be that role or be in the mentor position for people? Do you have anything like that?
I don't advertise that. I'm not too attached to those things. But this past few months, it's a little boy who comes when I'm in Key West, who's very passionate about art. And he reminds me a lot of me. He's 10 years old. So we've been kind of experimenting with art and then just allowing him to use his imagination and the world that he's in and not structure anything, to just give him the place to create work and keep them interested and trying to expand on that. It's very hard for me to teach someone or to show someone what I do because I didn't learn what I do, I don't know how to explain that to another person.
It's so individual. I mean, you talk in, it sounds to me like you talk in concepts, or you talk in like more of a spiritual realm that people can find their own personal way to come to the work.
Like these little kids, I can see something in him, then I really want to help him to pull out. And that interests me. Cool. And then also, doing things for your community. I had done a lot of variety of different stuff, and then helping to either like jury some artisan residency, jury some work for different type of stuff. All of that, it's all part of it. That's how you can give back to the understanding that you arrive to. And then if people can value that, that's pretty cool,
Cool. Well, to wrap up here, are there any other projects that you are currently working on that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm totally focused about this new space that I love, and then I always wanted to have my own gallery, so then I can do whatever I want, and then expand on that. And then the next year, I have something really exciting that I'm working towards. It's my first solo show at the Land Art Museum, and they're giving me a solo exhibit, and that's going to be really cool because my goal is to be able to have a summary of all of these different doors that I open creatively to put them together. Can be work that I did on x-rays of my body, work that I did on cell screen, on a bed series, a little bit of sculpture, a little bit of variety of different door, and then put all of them together in one place for 6 months.
Wow.
So the curator, he's been a great dude, man. I really like him. And then we connect really well. When I did the artist talk, he say, Michel, we definitely want to have you here. So they purchased some of my work, which is I'm very deeply gratified and honored. And it's a permanent collection. So there's a very strong interest to what I have to bring in the mix. So I like to really work with him. He's a really cool cat. So that's
cool. When is that going to happen next year?
The exhibits, we're planning to do it in April. And so it's going to run from April, I believe, to June or July next year in the Land Art Museum. So the talk was incredible. It was really cool. The support that I get from them was really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, man. So I'm excited for that. I just got to get to this little difficult place I am in, this transition. But, we're resilient, man. Just keep going, kick some ass, make good art.
That's right.
Keep your mouth shut.
Your mouth shut and your mind open, right?
There you go. I like that. Yeah.
And your heart open. Keep the heart open.
Yeah, and the heart. Yeah, say as less as possible, but always trying to make good work, man.
Yeah.
Make good work. Say less, and then one thing, be kind. You never know who's going to walk into your booth and change your world.
Yeah. Oh, well, this has been a wonderful talk, and I feel really, really inspired by your story. Thanks for sharing so much with me today.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Douglas. Thanks for your kindness, and then you have something good, man. Keep it up. The approach, the kindness, and the vulnerability.
No.
Totally. A+, man.
Thanks. I look forward to seeing you out there again, and I'm glad to have a new friend in you. So I really appreciate you, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and if you ever come to Chicago, just to let me know. You can always come to our open art studio here. It's really nice. It's different, and I think you will like it.
That's awesome.
Seeing different artists doing different things. Yeah, and then it's all the same. It's all the same tribe, man.
Cool. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
very grateful, man. I'm happy, and then we figured this technical.
We figured out the technical. Yes, we did.
We figured it out.
It took a little while, but we got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you around, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we did.
All right.
Yes, thank you, Douglas. And then have a lovely day.
You too.
That was a great talk, Douglas. I love Michel's work, and I love hearing him explain his history, his path, what got him to where he is. I just think we're a phenomenally lucky community to have him as part of it.
I kind of found myself at moments like I wanted to like jump in to explain things that I didn't really understand. And so, I found my rhythm, and I felt like just sitting back and just asking questions and letting him reveal his story. And it was such a touching, deep story that I didn't expect.
Yep. That's another thing that I love about the show. They never really give us what we do expect, right?
I often go into some of these talks with preconceived notions. And as we have evolved through the last year and a half, I am learning to strip those preconceived notions and just try and stay really present with the talk and allow it to not feel so like we're driving it. It's like allow the story to unfold and just be present and witness it.
Oh, look who's smoking the Eckhart Tolle.
That's right. Or the Brené Brown.
Oh, right? Both big fans.
Hey, what did you think about his gum spotting project that he was working on?
It's interesting. It's really interesting. And I've got a couple of talks coming up and talking about different projects that we all have going. So
yeah.
What do you think?
Well, the thing I thought was kind of cool is that symbolism around when you chew that gum and you're the flavor of the week and you're on top. And it just made me really like think of this business. And I've known so many friends who've had that moment when they're just at the top of their game. And then it almost feels like a switch gets flipped and then the balance comes in. And then you have to kind of reinvent yourself and recreate yourself. And it's not that the work has suddenly changed. It's not that the quality has changed. But I think that there is a timeline on some of the things that we put out there that it's like, okay, I'm done with that. Let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I feel like you have to kind of subtly grow all along. There are good friends of mine that I've seen stagnate and do the exact same thing over and over again. As long as you're still creating new things and having new energy in it, I think that can help you. But I definitely know what you mean. I've seen people complain about the good old days, and then it's like, well, you're still making the same art that you were making back in the good old days. Maybe the people are still there. They're just not there for you anymore because you haven't changed.
Yeah. Well, I've also felt like sometimes we craft our life or craft our business around those boom times, and we really need to keep that mental note in our head just from a business side of view that there's going to be ebbs and flows, and never overextend ourselves if we want to keep this business going into the future, to really, as a business model, kind of be like, okay, recognize, you know what I mean? The highs and the lows are going to be part of it.
No way. I'm always going to be on top. See you later, losers.
All right. That was my little bit of advice for the day.
Thanks, Dad. Appreciate it. Save a little for the rainy day. All right, Sigworth. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you next time, man. Appreciate it.
This podcast is brought to you by the National Association of Independent Artists. The website is naiaartists.org.
Also sponsored by Zapplication. That's zapplication.org. And while you're at it, check out Will's website at willarmstrongart.com and my website at sigworthglass.com.
Be sure to subscribe to this podcast to be notified when we release new episodes.